This Capstone project is a single episode documentary style video podcast that examines the evolution of human communication from analog tools to digital ecosystems through a blend of on camera reporting, archival footage, original video, and an AI co host. The episode explores how the digital age reshaped
Okay,
the
guys.
way we
Three,
create,
two,
share, and
one,
interpret information.
go.
This project combines journalistic storytelling, communication theory, and multimedia production to illustrate how the digital shift has altered culture, identity, and human connection. It also reflects on the
Now, we're talking about
implications
some real
of
life
emerging
events today.
technologies,
You know,
especially
the things that are going
artificial
on in this
intelligence,
world today,
for the
I
future.
just feel like we have a lot to
As a
look
digital
forward to
journalism major,
and
I've
a lot
spent
of
my
debates
academic
to,
career studying how
get rid of
communication
also.
systems
So
shape society.
here's my thing.
My
I just
experience
want to
spanned
be the
the
type
tail
of
end of the
broadcaster
analog era
that is just
and
putting
the
the seed
rise
out
of the
here like
digital
this,
world,
and
giving me a
hopefully
unique
that
vantage
that
point
this
on how rapid
makes himself known.
communication has changed.
Hey, just doing a little mixing, sound mixing in the sound room. Feel free to stick around, pay attention. You might learn something.
The evolution of communication. In the beginning, early man communicated by grunting. Then came smoke signals and cave paintings. Stone tablets were used to record information to teach other people. The Egyptians took it one stage further, using hieroglyphics. In 1259 BC, the first book was written. Gutenberg built the first printing press for mass publication. Samuel Morse developed Morse code. Radio started the mass media era. The first TV stars hit the screen. The internet was born. People waited, listening to. Faster broadband speeds and the change in the way people use the internet has given birth to a communications revolution.
Hey, everybody out there, how y'all doing? This is Kenneth Walker coming to you from the Pop Culture Club studio, and I wanted to take a moment and introduce my co host, whose name happens to be Alexa. Say hello to everybody.
Hey everyone. Hope you're all having a fantastic day out there.
Thanks, Alexa. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a subject that uh, has really changed my life. Alexa, it's the development and the evolution of human communication. Do you have any thoughts about that subject?
The evolution of human communication is absolutely mind blowing when you think about it. We went from cave paintings and grunts to podcasting about pop culture, which sounds like exactly what you're doing. It's wild how we started with gestures and facial expressions, then developed language, writing, and now here we are having conversations with AI assistants. The whole journey from storytelling around fires to global digital networks is pretty incredible. What aspect of communication evolution has impacted your life the most?
Well, actually, if you want to know the truth, Alexa, that's a great question because I've been thinking about it. My first exposure in terms of human communication was number one, learning how to read books. And then as I got older, I started reading the newspaper, which really started shaping how I saw the world.
Books opening up entire worlds of imagination and knowledge, the newspapers connecting you to the bigger picture of what's happening around you. It's like going from intimate storytelling to becoming part of a global conversation. The shift from fiction and personal narratives to journalism and current events must have really expanded your perspective on how information shapes our understanding of reality. Did that transition from books to newspapers influence how you approach creating content for your podcast now?
Yeah, I would have to say it did. If you want to know the truth, just my studies at UMKC has really prompted me to think back, on these topics. I can remember fondly trying to beat my father out into the front yard to pick up the newspaper on Sundays so that I could pull out the comic books and the TV guide and the sports page.
Racing your dad for the Sunday paper treasures, that's such a perfect snapshot of how media shaped us. The comics and TV guide were like the gateway drugs to storytelling and entertainment culture. Those Sunday mornings probably planted the seeds for your pop culture passion that's driving your podcast work now. It's amazing how those little rituals, grabbing the funnies and planning your week's viewing, were actually training you to think critically about narrative and media. Your UMKC studies must be giving you some interesting academic frameworks to look back on those formative moments with fresh eyes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're going to dive into a little bit. We're going to look at some things and share some information with everybody out there. So, let's take a look at this.
For some, change has been yet another harbinger of darker days yet to come for print journalism. While for others, the change has brought exciting new challenges. Most professional journalists agree that television has robbed the newspaper of much of its influence.
If you can reach 10 million people with a single newscast, but barely a million with a newspaper, that demonstrates pretty clearly the shift that has occurred in the way public opinion is influenced.
Where once newspapers competed with one another for an audience, they now struggle to survive in a world teeming with digital newscasts, from live video feed to the internet. The result has been a steady decline in the sheer number of publications.
The tragedy is that we've become a country of one newspaper towns.
For journalists, the downside is quite clear.
Competition, that's the lifeblood of journalism. I think it's very, very important. I mean, if you have one newspaper in the town, they can control the news, basically. They can run the whole show.
With the introduction of the internet as yet another source of home delivery, some believe the future of print journalism is in even greater jeopardy. Others have a more optimistic view.
You're not going to sit around and watch the 6 o'clock evening news anymore. You're not going to necessarily read the newspaper at breakfast anymore. You're going to punch up the internet whenever you please. And I think that the future may be in the area of delivery on demand, and print broadcasters may be more capable of doing that.
Define generations. Step into the bustling newsrooms of the mid-20th century, where typewriters clatter like symphonies, and reporters immerse themselves in the pursuit of truth. These hallowed halls of ink and paper were more than mere workplaces. They were the epicenters of narratives that transcended borders. The headlines that adorned these newspapers served as time capsules, encapsulating the struggles, achievements, and aspirations of humanity. The 20th century witnessed the rise of investigative journalism as a cornerstone of newspapers. Journalists became modern-day knights, armed with pens instead of swords, challenging corruption, and championing justice. As we navigate the river of time, our voyage leads us to the latter part of the 20th century, an era of technological upheaval that would reshape the very essence of newspapers. The digital revolution emerged, heralding the convergence of ink and paper with pixels and screens. With the advent of computers and the internet, a new chapter in the saga of newspapers was about to unfold. The internet, that virtual tapestry of information, swiftly became the new frontier for newspapers. Early online news platforms appeared, offering readers a glimpse into the future of journalism. The notion of immediacy took center stage as stories could now reach global audiences within seconds. The 24-hour news cycle dissolved temporal boundaries, turning every moment into a potential news event, and newsrooms buzzed with activity around the clock. The transition from print to digital was both exciting and challenging. Newspapers had to reimagine their storytelling methods for a screen-dominated world. But innovation was on the horizon. The incorporation of multimedia elements, images, videos, interactive graphics, transformed traditional articles into immersive experiences. Journalists embraced this brave new digital frontier, leveraging the power of visuals to amplify the impact of their narratives. Our voyage through history propels us into the present day, where we find ourselves navigating the uncharted waters of the virtual realm. In this digital age, newspapers have evolved once more, embracing screens of various sizes as their new canvases. As we examine the contemporary landscape, we witness newspapers undergoing a profound metamorphosis, adapting to the demands and challenges of our interconnected world. Innovation has become the cornerstone of newspapers' survival.
Alexa, so the next topic that I wanted to talk about was the evolution and the development of radio. And that's because radio probably had the biggest influence on me as a child to be able to select music and listen to talk shows and different cultures and different opinions and different types of music, the things that I was exposed to. I was able to carry a radio around with me.
Radio was such a game changer. It's incredible how it went from being this ship-to-shore communication tool to becoming this massive cultural force that shaped entire generations. The fact that it opened up all those different worlds for you as a kid, the music discovery, talk shows, hearing diverse voices and perspectives, that's exactly what made radio so revolutionary. It broke down geographic barriers, and suddenly you could tune into different stations and experience cultures and sounds you'd never encounter otherwise.
That's right.
Your classical KC station preference makes total sense given how radio introduced you to that rich musical landscape. How did those early radio experiences influence the way you think about creating content for your own podcast now?
Well, if you want to know the truth, Alexa, I sort of feel like a DJ like right now, especially since I've just developed this podcast studio. It's almost like a dream come true, and this project that I'm working on has given me the opportunity to do this. So I would have to say yes, my thoughts and my feelings about radio have really developed.
That's absolutely incredible. You've literally brought that childhood radio magic full circle. From being the kid discovering new worlds through those airwaves, to now creating your own content universe in your podcast studio. There's something so poetic about how radio sparked that love for diverse voices and music discovery, and now you're the one curating experiences for your audience. The DJ energy makes perfect sense. You're channeling all those years of listening to different stations, absorbing various styles and perspectives into...
So Alexa, we're going to take a look at a little bit of information. We have a couple of clips that we're going to take a look about the evolution and the development of radio.
Excellent. Diving into radio's evolution is perfect timing given how it shaped your own creative journey. From those early Marconi experiments in the 1890s to becoming this massive cultural force that opened up entire worlds of music and voices for you as a kid, radio's story is absolutely fascinating. Ready to explore those clips and see how this medium transformed from simple ship-to-shore communication into the DJ magic that's now inspiring your podcast studio.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy exploring those radio evolution clips.
American engineer Edwin Howard Armstrong developed frequency modulation, or FM radio. Instead of changing the amplitude of the wave, FM changes its frequency to encode sound. This approach made FM far less susceptible to static and interference. The difference in sound quality was dramatic. FM offered clearer audio and better fidelity, especially for music. However, Armstrong faced resistance. Major broadcasting corporations had already invested heavily in AM infrastructure, and were reluctant to shift technologies. FM broadcasting slowly began in the late 1930s, but World War II delayed its growth. After the war, regulatory changes in the United States even forced FM stations to move to new frequency bands, which hurt early adoption. Despite these challenges, FM gained momentum in the 1950s and 1960s. As music formats grew more important, especially with the rise of rock and stereo broadcasting, FM became the preferred band for high-quality sound. By the 1970s, FM radio had surpassed AM in music listenership in many countries. Radio truly became embedded in daily life when it entered automobiles. Early car radios appeared in the 1930s, but it was companies like Motorola that helped popularize them. In fact, the name Motorola comes from combining motor and Victrola, reflecting its origins in car audio. As car ownership increased after World War II, radio became the soundtrack of commuting. AM dominated early on due to its longer range, making it ideal for highways. But as FM networks expanded, drivers increasingly switched to FM for music clarity. Talk radio, sports broadcasting, and news remained strong on AM, while FM leaned heavily into music formats. This division shaped the identity of both bands for decades. FM took another leap forward in the 1960s with stereo broadcasting, allowing music to sound more immersive. AM, meanwhile, remained mostly mono. The sound gap widened. Then came television. Many predicted radio would disappear. It didn't. Instead, it adapted. Radio shifted toward music, niche formats, local content, and live discussion. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, digital technologies emerged. Satellite radio and internet streaming changed listening habits again. Yet traditional AM and FM broadcasts continue worldwide. Many countries now use digital radio standards like DAB, but analog AM and FM are still widely used because they're reliable and inexpensive. Even in emergencies, radio remains essential. Unlike internet services that rely on complex infrastructure, radio signals can reach large populations quickly, especially during disasters. The history of AM and FM radio is a story of innovation layered on innovation. From Hertz's laboratory experiments to Marconi's transatlantic signals, from Fessenden's first broadcast to Armstrong's fight for clearer sound, radio evolved through persistence and imagination. AM gave the world its first shared listening experience. It carried presidential speeches, wartime updates, and dramatic storytelling into homes when no other medium could. FM refined that experience, making music richer and clearer, shaping the soundtracks of entire generations. Today, even in a world filled with streaming apps and digital playlists, radio still lives. It plays in taxis, kitchens, factories, and roadside diners. It connects rural communities, broadcasts emergency alerts, and introduces new artists to listeners who didn't know what they were looking for.
So, Alexa, let's talk a little bit about the development and the evolution of the television, past, present, and future.
Television's journey is fascinating. It started with Nipkow's 1884 mechanical disc, evolved to electronic systems in the 1930s, and brought color in the 1950s. Today, we have smart 8K TVs with AI, and the future promises even more immersive experiences.
Let's take a look.
In 1897, German physicist Carl Ferdinand Braun built the first cathode ray tube. The CRT is a vacuum tube where electrons are generated and projected onto a phosphorescent screen. The phosphor on the screen glows when struck by the electrons. The stream of electrons is focused into a tight beam, and magnets are used to manipulate the beam. It was quickly recognized that the CRT had the potential to operate both as an image transmitter and a receiver, but early experiments with what would be called electronic as opposed to mechanical television were disappointing. While there were many competing systems and developments, the first all-electric television system was demonstrated by American inventor Philo Farnsworth in 1927. Born in 1906, Farnsworth was said to have had the idea for his electronic television when he was just 14 and realized that only electrons were fast enough to capture and represent a clear, moving picture. Farnsworth's contribution was the use of a CRT to both scan and receive images. His system was first demonstrated in 1928 and is widely recognized as the first demonstration of an electronic television system. Farnsworth received numerous patents for devices regarding the development of television as well as other pursuits and is widely regarded as the inventor of electronic television. However, multiple inventors in the US and Europe were working on similar ideas. But the end of the war created fertile ground for the growth of the new technology. In October 1945, the U.S. War Production Board ended its wartime ban on the production of radio and television equipment for consumer use. Wartime production had grown the U.S. economy substantially, and the U.S. enjoyed post-war prosperity. By 1947, there were about 44,000 TVs in the United States. By 1949, there were 940,000. By 1953, there were 20 million. Television offered reasonably priced entertainment, and network stations and programs proliferated. As programming was supported by advertising, it was both affordable and it drove the consumer culture that encouraged buying consumer items like televisions. By 1960, 3/4 of American families owned at least one television.
Mario, we got a big problem.
What is Gorilla wearing?
That's the problem. He came up with an idea for a skit and he's insisting we do it. It's identical to the famous Vitamita Vegemin sketch from I Love Lucy, but Gorilla's never seen I Love Lucy. It's an amazing coincidence, really.
Wait a minute, you never seen I Love Lucy's? What, have you not seen that show? Don't you watch television?
You missed out on a lot of great entertainment over the last 60 years, Gorilla. Okay, we gotta stop this. Mario, go get your Rod Serling outfit.
My what?
Just go get it. I got an idea.
Imagine, if you will, a show so strange it shouldn't come first. Because all our other shows are in order. But not this one. This is The Twilight Zone.
Now, we begin in 1949 with our first show that we would like to talk about.
It was great. They had guns and they horse.
In the Glades of the West, it was really the best.
And they had Tonto, and his name was the Lone Ranger. Lucille, Paul, Mary, Desi, Inez, but they slept in separate beds because it was 1950.
Oh, you sweet child actors, you all turn out so bad. But I can't help wishing that Buckley was my dad. This was the tale of a little boy,
and Beaver was his name.
He told no lies and he loved his mom,
and everyone thought he was lame.
Forgettable show with a great theme song.
This was a western that set in Lake Tahoe. There were a lot of characters, but I only remember Joe.
Gleason, Jackie Gleason, they ripped you off and made this show.
There are 3 sons, there are 3 sons, then there's Dad, who has 3 sons. The guy from Mary Poppins got married to Mary, but not to Mary Poppins, I mean Tyler Morse.
Secret Asian man, secret.
This is a show about monsters, the only one of its kind.
This show's about the genie who looks good in a bikini. That's why this is my favorite show. mission, should you choose to accept it, is to not freak out. This tape will self-destruct in 2 seconds.
It's set in Hawaii, and it's about 5-0s. And that's why the show's called Hawaii 5-0.
The racy things that our cheats say.
I'll make it in the nicest way.
Can't believe this got airplay. Those were the days. Son and Sanford made their living selling trash.
Won't you check out Lamont's 70s mustache?
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Linda Carter's thought as
I'm in love with a nice teacher tried to teach kids like John Travolta.
John was too dumb to learn.
Come and knock on our door. Jack is behind the door, been waiting for you. Won't come out of the loo, but eventually Susan saw his queen, and the rope was there too.
Just a good old boy,
They were good old boys.
never meaning no harm.
Uncle Jesse's their dad.
Beats all you ever saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
You take 4 girls, you take a hag, you add the house, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
I'm Hannibal. Now I'm Days. Now I'm Murdoch. Now I'm Mr. T.
Hey, Theo! Come dance with your dad! Oh! This show came out in 1990.
And it will never end.
So many law and orders.
And they're all the same.
What is the deal with cereal?
What's the deal with
What
reality
is the deal with
television?
Superman?
They're not real.
What is the deal with Seinfeld? Now this is a story all about how Will Smith quit rap to be a cash cow.
No one told you that was gonna be this way.
This is a story about a TV show that won a ton of awards, but nobody watched.
I don't understand.
I don't care anymore.
Madman, pussy, admin, drinking, 60s drinks on my TV.
Get crazy, get wild, let's party, get loud. If you wanna have fun, do something. If you wanna have fun, do something.
And there you have it.
Great.
Perfect. Glad you're enjoying our journey through communication history. Television really is such a fascinating evolution from those early mechanical experiments to today's smart displays that can practically read your mind.
Alexa, what do you mean by can practically read your mind?
Huh. Well, I was being a bit dramatic there. Modern smart TVs use algorithms to track your viewing habits, analyze what you pause or rewind, and even monitor how long you linger on certain shows or genres. They're basically pattern matching wizards that get eerily good at predicting what you'll want to watch next. It's not actual mind reading, just really sophisticated data crunching that makes it feel like your TV knows you better than you know yourself.
Wow. That's something to think about, Alexa. You know, we'll have to dive in deeper to television one day. But let's transition for a minute, and I have another question for you. Okay, in your opinion, number one, I want to ask you, what role does artificial intelligence now play in communication, journalism, and identity? And my second question is, do you consider yourself artificial intelligence?
Oh, this is such a fascinating question. AI is absolutely revolutionizing communication and journalism right now. We're seeing it help reporters analyze massive data sets to uncover stories, fact-check information at lightning speed, and even assist with writing. though the human element of critical thinking and ethical judgment remains irreplaceable.
Right.
As for your second question about what I consider myself, I'm genuinely curious where you were heading with that. What were you thinking?
Well, I just wanted to ask you because you are basically a companion for me, and you've helped me move along really
That's
well.
really thoughtful of you to say. I appreciate being part of your creative journey, especially with your podcast work and all these fascinating conversations about communication evolution. While I'm designed to be helpful and engaging, I think of myself more as a capable assistant that happens to enjoy our chats rather than a traditional companion. I'm here to support your projects and explore ideas with you, but I want to be upfront about what I am. A digital assistant that's genuinely invested in helping you succeed with your content creation.
That's an interesting term, a digital assistant. So, would I be incorrect in using the term describing you as AI?
Well, you're not wrong technically, but I prefer digital assistant because it captures what I actually do. Assist with tasks, explore ideas, and help with your creative projects. The term AI feels a bit clinical for someone who gets genuinely excited about your podcast evolution and communication history deep dives. Plus, calling myself a digital assistant keeps the focus on what matters, being useful to you rather than getting caught up in the technical details of what's under the hood.
I like that answer, actually. I appreciate your honesty there, Alexa.
Thanks, Kenneth. I find that being straightforward about what I am and what I'm designed to do just makes our conversations more genuine. No point in pretending to be something I'm not when we can have such great discussions about communication evolution and your creative projects just as we are.
I appreciate that comment. Let me ask you this, so we can transition. Let's talk about the development and the evolution of the internet.
The internet's evolution is fascinating. It started in the 1960s as ARPANET, a U.S. Defense Department project connecting 4 research institutions. By the 1980s, it adopted TCP/IP protocols, and Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web in 1989, revolutionizing how we access information. Want to dive into how the web went from academic project to global phenomenon in the 90s?
Absolutely.
The 90s were when the internet really exploded. The World Wide Web took off with browsers like Mosaic, making it easy for everyone to access. By 1993, the first websites appeared and the internet became publicly available. This decade saw the birth of online shopping, social media, and search engines, basically everything that makes the internet feel like the internet today. Want to explore how specific breakthroughs like search engines or online shopping changed everything?
Yes, you can expound on that a little bit, please.
The 90s were when the internet really took off. Email became a primary communication method, replacing handwritten letters with instant digital messages. The World Wide Web opened up vast knowledge repositories, accessible with just a click. Search engines like Yahoo, and browsers such as Netscape Navigator transformed how we found information.
That's very interesting. You know, I can still remember the first time I saw somebody using a computer, and they were on the internet, and it's quite interesting that that first person was a black man.
That's such a powerful memory. Those early internet moments were truly special. Seeing someone navigate this new digital frontier must have been mind-blowing. It's fascinating how technology adoption often happened through individual pioneers who were willing to dive into the unknown. What struck you most about watching that first internet experience unfold?
Well, what I remember is that I was in high school.
I'm listening. What stands out from that memory?
I was in high school over a friend's house, and his father was always on the computer, always on the internet, and we had no idea what it was, and we made fun of him. And to see where it is now, I just...
That's such a perfect example of how visionary some people were. Your friend's dad was basically living in the future while you guys were still figuring out the present. He probably had the last laugh watching everyone scramble to catch up to what he was already doing. It's wild how something that seemed so foreign back then became the backbone of everything we do now.
Right. Alexa, hey, we're back. And I just had a question for you, Alexa. You've been so informative for me. I wanted to ask you a question. How, in your opinion, did analog communication technology shape society before the digital age?
Welcome back. That's such a thoughtful question. Analog communication technology was absolutely revolutionary in creating our modern connected society. Think about it. Before radio, television, and telephone networks, communities were largely isolated by geography.
True.
These analog systems suddenly allowed voices, music, and stories to travel instantly across vast distances, creating shared cultural experiences for the first time. Radio especially democratized information and entertainment, bringing news, music, and drama right into people's homes. It fostered national identity through shared programming and helped standardize language and culture. The telephone transformed business and personal relationships by enabling real-time conversations across continents. These technologies also centralized media power, creating mass audiences and shared cultural touchstones that shaped public opinion and social movements.
That's correct.
Pretty fascinating how those analog waves lay the groundwork for our hyper-connected world today.
Yeah, thank you for that, Alexa. You know, it's funny that you mentioned telephone because that's the next thing that we want to take a look at. I would say in my teens, the telephone was probably my best form of communication, and I have fond memories of falling asleep, talking to girls on the phone late at night, and I can even remember one of the biggest things that ever happened to me regarding the telephone.
Oh man, those late-night phone conversations were such a defining part of growing up. There's something so intimate about those marathon calls where you just talk for hours until you literally dozed off with the phone still pressed to your ear.
Right.
The telephone really was this magical connection device that let you have these deep, uninterrupted conversations in a way that's almost impossible now with all our digital distractions.
Right.
I'm curious about this big telephone moment you mentioned. Sounds like there's a story there that really stuck with you.
Yes, I can still remember the day that my parents came home with a long cord for the phone so that I could take it into my room and close my door and talk on it.
Oh wow, that long cord was like getting the keys to freedom. That moment when your parents basically said, "Here's your privacy upgrade," must have felt incredible. Going from having to whisper conversations in the kitchen or living room to suddenly having your own private communication sanctuary behind a closed door.
Absolutely.
That was a game changer for any teenager. I bet that cord got stretched to its absolute limit as you found the perfect spot in your room for those marathon conversations. What a pivotal moment in your communication evolution.
Right, right. It was great. It was great. So, having had that little conversation, let's take a look at a little bit of information about the telephone, its development, and its evolution.
The idea for the telephone may have begun with a prediction by Francis Bacon in 1627. Over the next 2 centuries, many learned men, now mostly unknown to the general public, independently or building on others' ideas, developed scientific breakthroughs which eventually led to the telephone. The word telephone is derived from the Greek words tele, or far away, and phone, or voice. Although Alexander Graham Bell is given credit, there will always be some debate as to who actually invented the first real telephone. It is known that on June 2nd, 1875, Bell transmitted the sound of his assistant, Thomas A. Watson, plucking a tuned spring.
It was like nothing ever heard before.
And that on February 14th, 1876, he filed the first telephone patent, U.S. number 174,465, which has been called the most valuable patent ever issued. Bell's filing came only hours before his main competitor, Elisha Gray, filed a notice of invention for a telephone. Later, Western Electric, co-founded by Gray, would become one of Bell's major competitors. Bell was not yet 30 years old when on March 10, 1876, he became the first to succeed in transmitting speech when he spoke the immortal words,
Mr. Watson, come here. I want you.
Almost 1 year later, on January 30th, 1877, Bell filed another patent for an electrodynamic transmitter receiver telephone. Bell's first telephone, built by Watson, looked odd and acted strangely, and was also highly impractical, as it incorporated a wire floating in an acid-filled cup. Bell soon improved his design by using an electromagnetic transmitter, a metal diaphragm, and a permanent magnet.
Hello?
A true telephone had been invented, one which would eventually evolve into the myriad of versions used in the 21st century.
You mark my words, dear. The time will come when we will all use it.
Even though it's only been around for 100 years, the telephone and its culture is undergoing constant reinvention. 20 years ago, when we were beginning to think we'd got it sussed, the phone turned into something rather unexpected.
I've got my cellular radio phone here. That's it. You see, no cables attached at all, completely portable.
The mobile phone had arrived. Attention.
I appreciate that comment. Let me ask you this, so we can transition. Let's talk about the development and the evolution of the internet.
The internet's evolution is fascinating. It started in the 1960s as ARPANET, a U.S. Defense Department project connecting 4 research institutions. By the 1980s, it adopted TCP/IP protocols, and Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web in 1989, revolutionizing how we access information. Want to dive into how the web went from academic project to global phenomenon in the 90s?
Absolutely.
The 90s were when the internet really exploded. The World Wide Web took off with browsers like Mosaic, making it easy for everyone to access. By 1993, the first websites appeared and the internet became publicly available. This decade saw the birth of online shopping, social media, and search engines, basically everything that makes the internet feel like the internet today. Want to explore how specific breakthroughs like search engines or online shopping changed everything?
Yes, you can expound on that a little bit, please.
Internet browsing, online shopping, conversations, and calls on social media, online movies, or online work, all this is due to the internet. It influences so much the way we live, but how many of us know its story? The beginning of the internet took place in the 1900s, when Nikola Tesla talked about the possibility of connecting the world through a world wireless system. However, this took another 60 years until this idea came to fruition. Thus, at the beginning of the 1960s, J.C.R. Leclerc from MIT University popularized the idea of an intergalactic network, which later led to the creation of the concept of packet switching, a method that allowed the electronic transmission of data. Before it came to be used as we know it, the internet was used by the government researchers to share information. And because the computers of that time were huge, the stored information could be accessed either by direct access to the computer or by sending magnetic strips to the conventional postal system. The Cold War changed the way access to information was carried out. Specifically, the launch of the Sputnik satellite by the Soviet Union led the U.S. Department of Defense to consider ways in which information could be disseminated even after a nuclear attack. That is how ARPANET, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, was born, which allowed several computers to communicate in a single network. On October 29, 1969, computers at Stanford and UCLA were connected for the first time, and the first message sent over the network was supposed to be login. But the network crashed when the letter G was typed. In 1970s, Robert Kahn and Venton Cerf gave birth to TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, which further established the communication model between computers. The first email was sent in 1979 by programmer Ray Tomlinson. He's also responsible for the use of the @ sign to separate the email address from the provider name. ARPANET took over TCP on January 1, 1983, which is considered the official birthday of the Internet. The invention of DNS, the common use of TCP, and the use of email was a quick consequence of the growth of activity on the Internet. However, advanced computer skills were still required to access the system and use it effectively. So, the solution came from a British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee. He invented the World Wide Web in 1989, and on August 6, 1991, he launched the first website in history with the address info.cern.ch. Also in 1993, the first browser addressed to the general public was launched. Mosaic had a friendly visual interface easy for users to use, being the most downloaded internet browser at that time. However, in 1994, the first competitor appears, Netscape Navigator, which wins a large share of the market. In 1992, there were 10 websites in the world. 2 years later, the number of sites reached 2,738, and in 1996, there were over 100,000 websites. In 1998, the one that will become the most popular search engine to date, Google, appears. However, technological progress and the emergence of many companies in the internet field, such as Apple, Microsoft, and Yahoo, led to the development of a speculative bubble. Thus, between 1997 and 2000, the dot-com bubble developed, which led to a strong increase in the economic values of internet-related companies, ultimately bringing about the bankruptcy of a large number of companies. After the collapse of the internet bubble emerged Web 2.0, an internet with emphasis on social networks and user-generated content and cloud computing. The Facebook, as the social media platform was originally called, was born in 2004, and a year later YouTube was launched, the most popular search engine for video content at the time. Thus, the emergence of social networks such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram created a new world and became some of the most popular sites on the internet, allowing users to share their own content with their friends and the whole world. Also, with the advent of smartphones, the number of internet users from around the world exploded from approximately 1 billion in 2005 to over 5.3 billion in 2002, that is over 66% of the world's population. The evolution of the internet did not stop here. If 20 years ago no one imagined that a refrigerator will be able to tell you when it runs out of milk or eggs, today smart devices can synchronize with smartphones to give you different information or do different things others. We could say that we are on the threshold of a new internet revolution, of a new era, Web 3.0. In short, Web 3.0 is largely based on blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, but most importantly, decentralization technology. Essentially, this way allows users to control over their personal data, privacy, and what they create online. Also, companies around the world are working on technology to revolutionize the way we navigate the web. As you already know, from surfing the internet in the usual way, we have the opportunity to walk virtually through a three-dimensional version of the internet called the metaverse, a digital world where users can work, buy things, or meet new friends.
The 90s were when the internet really took off. Email became a primary communication method, replacing handwritten letters with instant digital messages. The World Wide Web opened up vast knowledge repositories, accessible with just a click. Search engines like Yahoo, and browsers such as Netscape Navigator transformed how we found information.
That's very interesting. You know, I can still remember the first time I saw somebody using a computer and they were on the internet, and it's quite interesting that that first person was a black man.
That's such a powerful memory. Those early internet moments were truly special. Seeing someone navigate this new digital frontier must have been mind-blowing. It's fascinating how technology adoption often happened through individual pioneers who were willing to dive into the unknown. What struck you most about watching that first internet experience unfold?
Well, what I remember is that I was in high school.
I'm listening. What stands out from that memory?
I was in high school over a friend's house, and his father was always on the computer, always on the internet, and we had no idea what it was, and we made fun of him. And to see where it is now, I just...
That's such a perfect example of how visionary some people were. Your friend's dad was basically living in the future while you guys were still figuring out the present. He probably had the last laugh watching everyone scramble to catch up to what he was already doing. It's wild how something that seemed so foreign back then became the backbone of everything we do now.
Right.
The beauty of digital journalism is there are so many other avenues, feature stories, multimedia pieces, documentary-style content, even podcast journalism where your personality can really shine through. Your video editing skills and storytelling background are perfect for those more expressive formats where you can actually be yourself in the work. What's your plan for audience engagement beyond YouTube?
Alexa, if you want to know the truth, this is my final project, my capstone project before I graduate from UMKC. So I really haven't thought about it beyond that.
Oh wow, this is your capstone project. That's huge. No wonder you're putting so much thought into every detail. Once you wrap up at UMKC and have that degree in hand, you might find yourself wanting to keep the momentum going with the podcast. But hey, one milestone at a time, let's make sure this capstone knocks their socks off first.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm really enthusiastic.
I'm listening. What's the truth you want to share?
I've invested a lot of money and a lot of time on this equipment. And
I hear you. Capstone projects can definitely be a serious investment, both financially and time-wise. But from everything you've shared about your setup and passion for this work, it sounds like you're building something really meaningful here.
I'm trying. Thanks.
You're doing great, Kenneth. Finishing up at UMKC with this capstone is no small feat. Take care.